What's going on, everyone? So today I got a really exciting video because we get to dive into set 4 and mess around with some of the brand new cards. We got a lot to talk about, so we're not going to waste any time here. First off, we are running with the new Boba Fett. This seemed like the very easy. The deck kind of built itself with some of the new spoilers, and it just seemed like the best leader to start with, really, in terms of just messing around with almost a completed deck, it feels like. Of course, there could be better cards to slot in as we get more set 4 cards. This seems like a good starting port. Second, I'm not going to be fighting against players today because, well, unfortunately, I couldn't get all the cards I wanted to when I was recording this video. So if you want to see more of this and you want to see me fight against players, please let me know in the comment section down below, because if that's the case, I will go ahead and try to do so. Today's more of a first look and messing around with this. I've already been playing with some of these cards, so I figured why not record for a video. And also, I want to say a big thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. We just started some tournaments, guys. It's been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to pass out some rewards for those winning in the patron tournaments. If you want to check it out, please check out the Patreon down below. Thanks for watching the video, and thanks for commenting, everyone. Let's talk about set 4 Boba and what I got going on here, and then let's dive into some games and mess around with this. So we are obviously piloting, and we are using indirect damage. There's a lot of indirect damage, strong cards that have already been revealed. The probably best one, to be honest, is the Fett's Fire Spray here, because with Boba Fett, this is a 4-resource, 4/4 space unit, which is already pretty strong. And then when you play it, it deals 2 indirect damage and an additional one because of Boba Fett. Because Boba Fett says, whenever we deal non-combat damage, we can exhaust Boba Fett to deal an additional indirect damage. Now, for those of you that don't know what indirect damage is, it's basically an overwhelming barrage, but your opponent gets to assign it, except it can include bases. So what that means is, if Fett's Fire Spray comes down, it deals 2 indirect damage. Your opponent can decide to go ahead and issue that to their units or their base, as long as their units actually have the HP equal to the damage it's dealing. If your cannon has 1 HP, you can't assign it like 10 indirect damage. With Boba Fett, you're also going to trigger another indirect damage, which means 3 total. So the idea behind this is we're trying to build a deck that is able to either rush them down with indirect damage or get so much value out of pinging their units that we can outvalue them. This is a little bit more of an aggro situated deck, but even though we are aggro, we need to make sure that they're punished for dealing their damage that they have to dish out from our indirect damage to their units. We can't let them just keep doing that, right? So we have a bunch of cards alongside the Fett's Fire Spray that are dealing indirect damage to punish that. With our indirect damage cards alongside Fett's Fire Spray, we have TIE Bomber, Zygerian Starhopper, the Droid Missile Platform, these 2 when defeated, and TIE Bomber on attacks. We've got the Dengar, who pilots and then is giving your ability or your unit the ability to deal indirect damage on attacks. We have the Triple Dark Raid synergies with the Devastator to come down really, really soon. We have Planetary Bombardment that just does a ton of indirect damage. And then we've got a bunch of things to punish our opponents for just dishing out all the indirect damage to their units. We've got P-38 Starfighter to deal that last 1 to a unit. We've got things like the IG-2000 to deal a bunch of damage to a bunch of different units. We've got Ruthless Raider to come down and deal 2 damage to finish off a unit. We've got Boba Fett as a pilot to come down on any transport or any regular space unit and finish them off with another damage or potentially 2 damage. We even have things like IG-88 pilot to buff up our units if our opponents have damaged units. And then we have a few support pieces. Things like Silencer as another space unit on turn 1, Fett's Fire Spray to work extremely well with Boba Fett and Triple Dark Raid, and just, well, TIE Phantom to work with all of our pilots, right? Just putting a pilot on TIE Phantom is really, really strong. With all that said, we're going to see what we could do with this deck. It seems pretty good. We're going to test it out against a bunch of like the random meta decks in set 2 or set 3 right now, and we'll see how strong it feels. Let's dive into it. Moving into game number 1, we got ourselves set 3 Sabine. A little meta action. Probably the best deck the AI has to offer. I think that we don't want to risk it. I think that we just want to keep this hand. Devastator, probably the resource alongside I guess the Zygerian Starhopper. I actually really like TIE Bomber. So TIE Bomber coming down is going to be really massive for us, just because this is going to deal a ton of indirect damage, right? A total of 4 indirect damage with the Boba Fett trigger. Planetary Bombardment, not really going to be all that relevant, I don't think. So we will just go ahead and resource that. We're going to go ahead and attack into their base. The card that we probably most would have liked to see is something along the lines of a P-38. They're going to go Fleet Lieutenant, and are they going to attack the TIE Bomber? I think it makes sense to just hit the base, but also there is some argument for going ahead and hitting the TIE Bomber, right? Take initiative. Another TIE Bomber. I think we just want to resource this silencer. I think it's pretty weak. I think we're also not interested in that TIE Bomber, but, you know, that's just how it goes. We're actually going to kill their A-Wing here with this lurking TIE Phantom. Get a little bit of value there. Get in that kill for free. They're going to deal 2 damage to their Fleet Lieutenant and 2 damage to their base with that attack. We're going to go ahead and play out that Fett's Fire Spray. Deal another 2 indirect damage, which is basically just 2 damage to their base, which is awesome. Now, we don't have No Good to Me Dad for a Darksabered up Sabine, so if that were to be the case, that would have been pretty strong. Yularen coming down, though, not nearly as powerful. Now, here, we do have that No Good to Me Dead and a P-38, so I do like the position that we are in. And I will go ahead and get in that attack with the TIE Bomber to start us off, just to see where they're going to allocate all of those damages. And then there comes a Red 3 ECL. Ooh, okay, so that's pretty powerful, killing off that TIE Fighter. I think that or TIE Phantom. That makes a lot of sense. Here, though, we are going to... So I think what we want to do is attack into their base here with the Fett's Fire Spray and just see where they're going to allocate the damage yet again. And then we will play a No Good to Me Dead on Sabine. They'll get in for 3, and then we will play out the Elite P-38, dealing another one to Sabine. They got a Battlefield Marine coming down, and this is pretty tricky, especially with this Yularen here. And I don't know if we're going to be able to win here. But remember, we do have this flip. We do have the flip from Boba Fett. I should have dealt 1 to the Fleet Lieutenant. That was my mistake. But we can go ahead and deploy this as a pilot on the Fett's Fire Spray, which deals 4 damage total. So we can go 1 to the Fleet Lieutenant and 2 to the Yularen. And then 1 to the Red 3. And I mean, that's a pretty powerful play, right? That is a lot of damage just being completely destroying our opponent's board. And they deployed a Poe Dameron. And now we can just go ahead and take initiative. Nothing in our resource pile. We just take initiative, and now we can hit them with this Fett's Fire Spray, and that's going to be game. I mean, that was pretty sweet. You know, the Fett's Fire Spray or the Boba Fett coming down and doing that mini overwhelming barrage when you're doing all the indirect damage is pretty powerful. Again, since I am still not super expertly familiar with all the cards, I am trying to pay attention to my cards and think through what I'm doing and think about what my opponent could have potentially done without knowing their hand. Because they're an AI, it's a little bit tricky to think about all that type of stuff. So just bear with me a little bit. Here, I really like this Dengar. I really like the Dengar. The Zygerian Starhopper is pretty good. I think, though, I would love to go ahead and get down probably the Pride on turn 1. This is going to be a 2-3 that's going to attack with the indirect damage because we have the initiative since we are going first. They have the Battlefield Marine, which is totally fine. IG-88 is probably going to be the resource here. So here, if we attack their base, we are going to get a bunch of indirect damage triggers. And again, our opponent could go ahead and just take the full 3 indirect damage into their base, plus the Pride, to keep their battlefield marine so that they can kill my pride. But again, we have a lot of things deal 1 remaining damage to that battlefield marine, and they also would not have gotten in for some damage here, which is pretty unadvantageous for them. Let's just go ahead and use the full 3 resources here, because next turn we'll be able to go Dengar plus the Zygerian Starhopper potentially, and that's going to be a pretty powerful play. Another Zygerian Starhopper. I have changed my mind. We are going to resource one of them and probably play out this Fet's Fire Spray here. And here I am just going to deal 2 to their base with the Pride. And I'm going to go ahead and trigger Boba Fett to get an extra damage into their base. There goes a Wing Leader. Wing Leader's pretty powerful, to be honest. I think instead what I want to do... No, I just want to go ahead and play out that Fet's Fire Spray. Ooh, they dealt some damage to their battlefield marine. So here's what's tricky about it. Let's say they didn't deal damage to their battlefield marine. They just take 2, which is kind of impactful. But this way, what we can do is remove one of these upgrades with Pride's ability, right? I think it's actually really strong against Wing Leader because your opponent's not really going to want to dish out damage to their own base. But just think about it. They've dealt a total of 6 damage to their units with indirect damage. That means they would be at 14 damage on their base, which is an absurd amount of damage on their base. Like an absolutely absurd amount of damage on their base. So this is why indirect damage is somewhat balanced, because the opponent can control it. But in situations like this, I mean, how do you really control it, right? So we've got 5 resources, which means we can't get Devastator, but we can get a Ruthless Raider or a Fet's Fire Spray. I think I actually just want to go ahead and deploy some of my pilots here. So what I'll do is I will go ahead and play Boba Fett as a pilot on the droid missile platform, finish off that Wing Leader, and I can go ahead and deal another indirect damage with the Boba Fett because we've dealt non-combat damage. They're going to go ahead and ECL out a Cassian to finish off my Pride. We will go ahead and play out a Dengar as a pilot on the Fet's Fire Spray. This is going to give it 5 power and the ability to do 5 indirect damage on attacks. So now this is going to completely devastate my opponent's HP on that side of the board. And we are still going to get in damage. They cannot take it on their base because they will just die, right? So that's really nice. And now, I mean, the game is over, right? They got 23 damage on their base. Everything is just completely low, way too low because of the indirect damage. And I mean, it's just going everywhere. It is just super, super powerful, it looked like. Let's move on to the next game. Okay, and now we're into the next round, and we've got, well, a Pride, so we're going to go ahead and start off with that. Our opponent does have that Tarkin Town, so they are going to be dealing some damage to our units. They're going to take out the Fet's Fire Spray. I think, generally speaking, your opponent definitely just takes this Elite P-38 Starfighter, but, well, they're AI, so it is what it is. They're going to Tarkin Town my Pride. I think that's pretty standard. Like if I was my opponent, I'd be Tarkin Towning the Pride as well. Hotshot Blaster on turn 2, not exactly all that powerful. Let's go ahead and resource another Ruthless Raider. I suppose we can... No, we want to get down this TIE Bomber. I'm pretty sure we would like to. Let's go ahead and attack in with this Hound's Tooth for 4. And then I think we will play out the TIE Bomber. There are 2 of them for a Bosk. And we will deal 1 to our TIE Bomber. And then I guess we'll take initiative. Bosk is definitely good in this spot for them. IG-88 can be pretty good as well. I think IG-2000 is the resource here. So what we'll want to do is attack him with this TIE Bomber. And they'll deal a couple damage to their Bosk. We can exhaust this, deal another damage to someone. Get in for 0, but then we can go ahead and pilot up this Hound's Tooth, which is going to give it +3/+3. And then we can attack in for a massive chunk here. That's going to be 7 damage. Punishing 1, we can go ahead and deal damage to our Hound's Tooth. And then now we can go ahead and play out the P-38 Starfighter, which is going to deal 1 to, I suppose, the Bazine. Maclunky bouncing the Bosk. And they're going to finish... Wow, they're going to finish off or they're going to bounce the Bazine, finishing off that that Hound's Tooth with a total of 5 damage, which then gets an attack in. I think our opponent kills off the TIE Bomber there instead of attacking the base, but that definitely could change. Boba Fett into the resource, or IG into the resource, and here I think we just go ahead and use Boba Fett's flip as a pilot, deal 2 to Bosk, and then 2 to the punishing one. And then we just attack in with this Boba Fett. They're going to attack our base. That's fine. We will attack them with some indirect damage. They've got a Bazine. Oh no. Don't take my planetary bombardment. Aww. In that case, I'll just play out a Boba Fett actually as a unit. Just a 5/4 shielded. And they have a Cad Bane. They'll be able to attack for 4. But we have a 7. Oh, deal 2 damage. Oh, we'll deal to the Boba Fett. We have a 7 damage attacker here so that we can just finish off the game. Devastator, huh? Devastator's pretty sweet. Boba Fett flip coming down and being a little mini overrolling barrage while also closing out the game is pretty nice. Let's do that again. Let's run that back against Cad Bane Red and see what we can do again. This one's a pretty bad hand. I don't like this one all that much. Let's go ahead and mulligan it. I'm really looking for a turn 1 play. It's okay. It's okay. We'll keep this hand. We have the Pride on turn 1. They're gonna daring raid us. Probably not what I would be going with if I was my opponent, but okay. Let's go ahead and we want to. I suppose we should resource one of these pilots. Probably. Actually, you know what? Yeah, no, we can't attach 2 pilots to the Hound's Tooth, so we should definitely just go ahead and get some value while we can. Let's go ahead and just attack in with Pride here. We don't have the indirect damage because we don't have the initiative, but we will go get down this Hound's Tooth. We'll pass. Another Pride can be resourced. They're attacking with Boba Fett, so we will go ahead and play out this Dengar as a pilot on the Hound's Tooth. It's going to make it a 5/5 with the ability to deal 3 indirect damage on attacks. They're going to dish it out to their Boba Fett. Makes a lot of sense. Now there are 2 of them. 4-Lom. Okay, 4-Lom's not as scary. Ruthless Raider. Okay. I think here we will just attack in with the Hound's Tooth. And then we will get in some damage into their base. So 5 plus the 1 from Boba Fett. And then I think I'll just go ahead and play out this IG 2000, right? Now, because it is when played, each of up to 3, you don't actually have to deal 1 damage to yourself. So it's up to 3, which is really, really nice. Let's go ahead and deal 1 to our IG 2000. And you might be wondering, well, why don't you just go ahead and play out your triple dark raids? Because I want to have 8 resources to potentially hit this Devastator. So now I will. And maybe we hit a Devastator. We did not, but we could still grab. I mean, we could grab a Fett's Fire Spray. But that's going to deal 2 indirect damage plus another 2 indirect damage. I mean, it's probably just worth it to get the Ruthless Raider. Probably just worth it to get the Ruthless Raider. We'll deal 1 damage to the Ruthless Raider. They're going to what? Oh, grab a McClunky. So now, because they have 3 damage, we'll want to go ahead and play this on the IG 2000 so that we don't immediately lose the IG 2000. And then also, because we can, we'll just go ahead and deal 2 to their Boba Fett and deal 2 to the Cad Bane, and we piloted out that on the Ruthless Raider. And yes, the Ruthless Raider is going to bounce back to hand, but we're just winning the game. We are just winning the game. Just winning the game. No big deal. I mean, look at that. Just so much damage being passed around. So much damage. All right, let's try one more. Into our next matchup, we've got ourselves Anakin Blue on the other side of the battlefield. Yeah, it's an okay hand. I'll take it. I'm gonna resource the Feds. Actually, I'm gonna resource the Ruthless Raider and the Silencer because I'm gonna get down the TIE Bomber turn 1. They're gonna go and draw themselves a Restored Arc. We're gonna play out the TIE Bomber. TIE Bomber is a little bit of a risky card in this matchup, just because our opponent has things like that Restored Arc that can be pumped up by Anakin, and they're gonna just open fire our TIE Bomber immediately. So no attacks in with that one. They're gonna C-3PO. Are they gonna draw a card? Nope. We got the droid missile platform down, which isn't too bad. Not that I'm extremely excited about it, to be honest. We'll probably get down another missile platform here, but let's attack in with this one first. Restored Arc, drawing another one here. We're going to play out a second droid missile platform, and they've got a Restored Arc. Let's go ahead and take initiative as a... there's their... there they come. Let's resource Houndstooth. No, we can't do that. We kind of need Houndstooth. I think it's no good to meet dead, actually. And we can put this on a droid missile platform. But does it make a whole lot of sense? I'm just going to attack their base for 4. They're going to hit in, attack our base. We are going to hit their base. They're going to hit our base. Oh, they're going to hit one of these. So now we're going to be able to deal some indirect damage. And now we get to go ahead and play the Houndstooth. It is a little bit risky, but we will go ahead and play out this Dengar as a pilot on the Houndstooth. Ooh, another space unit. Lots of... oh my gosh, that's the trifecta of Arc 170s. That is pretty funny, honestly. Yeah, I mean... it's going to get it done, huh? We're going to go ahead and attack into their Concordant interceptors here with that droid missile platform. Deal some indirect damage. And then we will exhaust, deal 1 to their base, it looks like. But the nice thing about this is what we'll do here is hit my Houndstooth for 4. Sure. We will get in for 8 damage into their base because of the Houndstooth. They're going to deploy Anakin, which is pretty good, but we will get down a Fett's Fire Spray here, which is then going to be readied up. And yes, they could have like a Rival's Fall, but it's very unlikely, to be honest. Anakin Blue doesn't really play Rival's Fall all that frequently. And this is going to be 9 damage immediately. And that's going to be the end of the game. I mean, look how fast this deck rolls. It's so fast. Like, yes, it's not quite as consistently fast as like a Sabine, because the indirect damage can change based on what matchup you're in. But man, that was pretty fast, right? That was some very, very solid damage all along the curve. Here, I think I will keep, but I'm not excited about it. I'm going to resource the Fett's Fire Spray and the Devastator here, and we will get down that TIE Bomber here. We do have the initiative, and this is exactly what I was worried about. Our opponent having something like a Restored Arc 170 to kill off this TIE Bomber with their Anakin action. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pilot out this Dengar on the TIE Bomber. They're going to hit our base. That seems okay. We're going to get in for a total of 5 indirect damage, plus another one from Boba Fett, plus the 1 damage from the attack. They got a Village Protectors, and we will take initiative. There's a Ruthless Raider, probably not really interested in that here, but let's just go ahead and play out an IG 2000 so we can get rid of the Restored Arc and get rid of a shield token. Exhaust Boba Fett to go ahead and deal another indirect damage, and then we will attack in with this TIE Bomber. So yeah, our opponent probably in this spot just goes ahead and attacks the TIE Bomber with the restored arc to go ahead and deal 4 damage to it, but they instead hit our base, so I think that was a pretty massive mistake. But let's see, let's resource this, and let's start off by an attack with the TIE Bomber, getting lots of indirect damage. Lots of indirect damage. I love it. Look at all this damage. I mean, look at how much damage there is. It's so crazy. Let's go ahead and play out the Fet's Fire Spray, deal another 2 indirect damage. I mean, they're just taking some to their units now. They're just killing off their own units because they got nothing else to do, it looks like. Hit in for 3, and now, I mean, next turn we can't put other Dengar out because that would be 2 unique upgrades down, but we ended up drawing 2 Ruthless Raiders, which is a pretty strong one as well. Let's attack in with this TIE Bomber here. I probably should have gone with the Fet's Fire Spray, honestly, because we would have guaranteed more damage. Whereas this one, they're probably going to deal with their Cassian since they are under a lot of pressure here. But hey, that's okay. Let's go ahead and attack in with the Fet's Fire Spray now. And remember, we could do something like attack in with the IG-2000 first and then deploy BOBA as a 4/7 leader. We don't actually have to go ahead and deploy him as a pilot every single scenario. And now we can finish off the game. So that was pretty sweet. Let's talk about Boba Fett, guys. All right, everyone. So what did we learn with Boba Fett? I mean, obviously AI, we win every game. Like, it's like a 90% win rate on Force Table if you play Force Table, even when you're fighting against their best deck, which is Sabine Green, as far as I've found. But this has a lot going for it, and I do think it seems pretty strong. There are obviously things that your opponent is going to need to think about when they're dealing with indirect damage. Like, do you have cards that are going to be punishing them, like the P38, like the IG-2000? Can you actually deal that much indirect damage to your own units, or are you going to have to take it to the base? But again, if you are taking it to the base, the deck really takes advantage of that. And on turn 5, when you are able to flip over Boba, it's just an extra 4 damage, and that is a pretty powerful amount. You can put it on a vehicle, which we did many times, and that overwhelming barrage-esque effect on the flip of Boba is pretty strong. 4 damage spread as you want it is perfect in a spot where you've already played your Fet's Fire Spray small version, your TIE Bombers have been getting in attacks, your Dengars have been indirect damaging all over the place. It really does finish off a lot of units. Now, we never got the Devastator plus Triple Dark Raid to go off, or even Planetary Bombardment. I was putting those cards in the deck because I figured they would be fun, but I actually don't think Planetary Bombardment should be a full 3 of. And I don't even know if Devastator should be a full 2 of or 3 of. Or maybe you could just cut like Ruthless Raider and play Devastator, or the vice versa. Like maybe just Ruthless Raider and Fet's Fire Spray are what you want, because it gives you that turn 3 play with Fet's Fire Spray and Ruthless Raider and Triple Dark Raid, whereas Devastator's a turn 5 play, right? It's a 6 resource play, even with Triple Dark Raid, which can be pretty rough because you want to play Triple Dark Raid earlier sometimes. But overall, I mean, everything's ran pretty smoothly. Like, everything made sense in the deck, and everything that I wanted to do kind of came to fruition. Really, I'm curious to see if we're going to see more support for this, or if this is just going to be kind of the base bare bones of the direct damage deck or indirect damage deck. It's pretty strong, and I'm excited. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all for the next one.